Okay, so get ready, because we are diving into something huge today, even for us, uh,
Hmm.
God.
Whoa.
But not the
Yeah.
way you might think.
Right.
We're using this amazing Jordan Peterson interview on the Lex Fridman podcast as our guide.
Yeah, and you're right to say, not the way you might think. We're not talking about fire and brimstone or anything, but more like, what does this word God, what does it even point to in a deeper way? Almost psychologically, you know?
Right. And Peterson even says in the interview, it better be possible to talk about this.
Yeah.
And then he just jumps right into this idea of God being like the ultimate guide to
Yeah.
thriving, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, it's such a good starting point because he just owns how heavy that word is God, but then he like brings it down to earth, makes it practical, and what I think is so cool is he connects that to something everyone's felt admiration. You, listener, you've got your heroes, right? People you admire.
Totally. And it's not even just, oh, they're cool. It's like Peterson saying built into that admiration
Hmm.
is this drive to actually be more like them, to become what we admire, which if you really think about it, that's kind of deep.
It is. He even says it straight up. You extract out the ideal. Like, we're looking at these people trying to figure out what is it about them that's so great? And then it's like, can I get that for myself? God almost becomes this like blueprint that keeps getting better the more good stuff we see in the world.
It's making me think, who are my heroes? And what is it about them that I'm drawn to? It's like, what am I subconsciously striving towards? But here's where Peterson takes this even further and says even science, which people see as like the opposite of religion, even science has a form of belief at its core.
And he doesn't mean scientists believing in like a god or anything. It's more this deep trust in something bigger than what we get right now. He uses the example of a scientist testing a theory, right? What they're really saying is, what I know right now might be wrong, but there's a bigger picture I'm trying to understand.
So it's almost like scientists are on this quest for some transcendent truth,
Exactly.
right? Something bigger than themselves that they might spend their entire lives chasing.
Yes. It's this pursuit of the unknown, a humility in the face of the vastness of knowledge. But here's the thing. Peterson warns that without acknowledging something bigger than ourselves, whether we call it God or this transcendent truth, we risk becoming consumed by our own ambition, like we become the danger.
Whoa, okay, that took a turn.
Mhm.
So we've got admiration pushing us to improve, science seeking this transcendent truth, but then this warning about unchecked ambition. How does that fit in? It's almost like we need some kind of like counterbalance to keep our egos in check, especially when we're talking about like really pushing the limits of knowledge and stuff.
Yes. And you know where this goes. Death.
Okay, before we lose everyone, remember Peterson and his metaphor.
Exactly.
Okay, good, because I was going to say death isn't exactly a light topic. Haha.
No, not literal death here. More like
Right.
this letting go thing. Letting go of old beliefs, ways of thinking, even parts of ourselves that aren't working anymore.
So more like shedding a skin, so something new can grow.
Yes. And he's saying that kind of death is how we grow, how we adapt. And this is huge EE when we think about how fast tech is changing AI especially.
Speaking of, we did say there was an AI part to this.
Mhm.
How does Peterson connect those dots?
So he talks about the kind of people into AI, robotics, that whole world. He calls them thing people as opposed to like people.
No shade to the thing people, by the way, gotta have them.
Of course, it's about balance, right? His point is those fields, they draw minds that are all about logic systems outcomes, which we need. But the risk is you miss the human side, the ethics.
So just because we can build something crazy powerful doesn't mean we should.
Exactly. And when you're talking AI that could change the world, that ethical core, knowing there's something bigger than us that's crucial, it's like that saying, power corrupts absolutely.
And that loops back to God, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not as like a judgmental God, but just this reminder that we aren't the end-all be-all. There's something more, which should probably make us a little humble.
Yes. And this is where death as letting go gets really interesting with tech. Peterson talks about how so much of our tech has no clear off switch.
Okay, that is kind of terrifying when you think about machines that learn on their own.
Right. And it's not just a literal switch either, but knowing when something's gone too far, knowing when to stop, reassess, maybe even scrap the whole thing if it's dangerous, like that optimal bite of death he talks about. How do we apply that to something as complex as AI?
Optimal bite of death. Intense. More metaphors.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it's deep. He's getting at this constant letting go about these old beliefs, who we used to be. It's a continual death that lets us really grow.
It even brings it down to our bodies,
Right.
right? Like on a cell level, we're always growing and dying.
Yeah,
Old cells go, new ones come in, and how we keep going.
exactly. And he's saying Our minds, our beliefs, even who we think we are, it's the same. If we cling too tight to that, we get inflexible, stuck. We can't adapt to new stuff or challenges.
Which in this crazy, fast-changing world, that's a recipe for disaster, right? We have to
Mhm.
be able to adapt and evolve.
Exactly. And that's why this optimal bite of death, this willingness to let go, it's so important, especially with tech. It's about being okay with change, even if it's hard, because that's where the growth is.
So it's not like looking for pain on purpose or anything, but kind of accepting that change, even if it feels like a little death, sometimes it's just going to happen. And if we roll with it,
Yeah.
maybe even find the good in it, then we can grow in ways we couldn't before.
Yes, exactly. It's that whole the only constant is change thing. And I think what Peterson's getting at is that letting go thing, embracing that optimal bite of death.
Yeah.
That's what lets us really live, authentically.
I'm really seeing how it all fits together now. We started with God as this roadmap to thriving, then how even science has a kind of faith. And that took us to needing humility and death as this letting go thing.
And it also all connected, right? Like there's something bigger than just us. And when we tap into that, whether it's God or transcendent truth, whatever you want to call it, that's where life gets, it has purpose.
It's almost like saying, forget the rules, forget the rituals, the real God stuff, if we even want to call it that. It's all internal. It's us wrestling with the big questions, always trying to level up, be better.
And anyone can do that. It doesn't matter who you are, what you believe. It's about being curious, staying humble, and being open to what we don't know yet.
You know, that optimal bite of death thing really stuck with me. That's powerful. And it makes you wonder, how do we know when to hold on, when to let go? How much can we change and still be us?
$1 million question, right?
Yeah.
The easy answer. It's like this lifelong experiment. But maybe just asking that, wrestling with it, that's what makes us grow.
So the journey's not about getting the answers, but being okay with the questions themselves.
Yep. Perfectly said. And on that note, I think we'll leave everyone with this from Peterson. What's the optimal bite of death you need right now? What needs letting go of so something new can begin?
One to think about, for sure. And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive into Jordan Peterson, God's science, and what it means to be human in this crazy world. So until next time, keep asking those big questions and keep diving deep.